All right, we good? Okay. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the King George County School Board regular meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, please be seated. All right, at this time, do we have any public comment? Ms. Rinko? All right, first we have Mr. Don Shelton. If there's is there a push button under the mic, lights up a green light?
That's a wall unplugged. Hello?
There you go.
It's working now.
Very good.
First of all, I would like to thank all of you guys for serving our county. It is a thankless job. And no matter what you do, you get some says you're doing a good job, saying you're doing a bad job. I reckon for us, the school board, and what we're concerned about now is the possible CRT being installed in the schools. Anything that's been teaching in the schools about dishonoring our country and our history. And also we're concerned about, since Delta virus is growing, whether or not y'all would close the schools down or not. Again, because y'all had a difficult challenge last year, and I hope this year, if you get to that point, you let the parents decide which way to go on that. Again, thank you for what you do to serve in our county.
Thank you, sir. We have a timer. No. Okay. All right. Next, we have Ms. Sarah Hart.
Is it on? So my husband and I are here. We weren't sure if you all were going to discuss the Department of Education. I guess it's the guidelines. I'm not sure what the proper term is. It was put out. I spoke with Gail and with TC about it and just wanted to know what y'all's stance on that is and what this next school year will look like for the county. So.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hart. Next, we have Mr. Chris Hart. Good. Okay. All right. Next up, Ms. Deanna Price.
Hello, how are y'all?
Good.
Basically, this is my first time here. So it was made known to me about the bathrooms, like the public bathrooms for our kids. Basically, I just want to know the stance for our kids' school year. The thing with Pledge of Allegiance and the masks, just basically here to kind of get an idea of what y'all stance is on it. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. And next, Chance, Mr. Chance Puckett. Is that right? Pass. Okay. All right. All right. That's it for in person, I think. Mr. Vance, do we have anyone online? No. Okay. All right. Well, then we will move along. Do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Okay. All right. Next, we have the consent agenda. For consideration this evening, we have the minutes from the June 21st, 2021 regular meeting. Do we have a motion? That's the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for July 21st, 2021 regular meeting.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Mr. Collins?
I'm sorry.
Okay, chair votes aye, motion carries. All right, next we have our action items. I won't read through all of those, but do we have a motion to approve for any recommended changes?
So I don't have any motions for recommended changes, but I think that the one that would be the most applicable to the public comment would be the JFHA/GBA. And it's prohibition against harassment and retaliation. So that policy speaks to the law in accordance with the protected classes. And I think that this policy does fine with the question is in regards to transgender, because it protects them against harassment and retaliation, and it gives them an avenue for complaints to address some of the comments about the public bathroom. The equity that I think that y'all were referring to on the suggested policy from the Department of Education is only that, the suggested policy. This is the policy that we have, and then nothing in that policy says that you can use bathrooms that aren't assigned to you. So I think that we'll be covered fine on that. That's my opinion. And if we're not going to be covered on that, then we'll definitely, we will cross that bridge when it comes, because, you know, there's a lot of things that in the public that are getting a lot of attention. Transgender is one of them. Critical race theory is another one. And so let's not bury our heads in the sand and do what the people of King George want. Point blank. We know what's the right thing to do. So I think that this covers the right thing. It doesn't allow anyone to be harassed or retaliated against, but it doesn't give them carte blanche to do as you please.
All right, so do we have a motion to, I'm sorry, Dr. Benson.
I appreciate Mr. Collins' sentiments and his clarification. And just to expand in light of the public comment, the model policy that is on the DOE website, there's no intention to bring that before this board. I certainly wouldn't bring that before this board. I have assurance from our Virginia School Boards Association. This board subscribes to, as do many boards in Virginia, to that service for policy updates to make sure that policies are legally fit. I've been assured by the attorney through Virginia School Boards Association that our policies, as long as we maintain, and we do maintain the updates that they provide, will satisfy the statutory requirements. There's no need for us to adopt any standalone policy, which I know one of the speakers referenced. So again, no intention to bring the model policy to this board as we subscribe to Virginia School Boards Association, and we're covered there. I hope that helps to clarify.
Before Madam Chair, make a motion to accept the action items. There was one other thing about the public bathrooms. I mean, about the Pledge of Allegiance. There is a policy that says that we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a policy that's a standalone policy on the Pledge of Allegiance. So that's covered. Just want you to know that. I don't know if that's in tonight's though, but there is a standalone policy. You want a motion?
Yeah. Are you making a motion?
I will if you let me.
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Make a motion to accept the policy manual updates in the action item as presented.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right, moving on to our discussion items. So continuing with our policy manual update discussion, So I know I have 2 points, so we'll just walk through them as we normally do. So our first policy for discussion, GCQA, non-school employment by staff members. Feel free to stop me if you have comments. Policy GCQAB, tutoring for pay. Policy GDN, evaluation of support staff. This one perhaps of interest, policy IEA, the Pledge of Allegiance. That's a
Standalone policy that says that.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And so to make it, I guess to make a note, it is required by state statute that students recite the Pledge of Allegiance daily in the classrooms. Is that not correct, Dr. Benson? Right? Right, isn't that the state law?
I'm sorry, the legal reference appears to support that. I want to make sure for our public, no student is compelled to recite, according to this policy, compelled to recite the pledge if the student or a student's parent or legal guardians object on religious, philosophical, or other grounds in the students participating in this exercise. That's that language that has been our practice for some time. So there's really, outside of just the minor editorial change there, the underlying words, there's no change in substance to what we do, have been doing, and what we will continue to do.
Great. All right, next is policy INB, teaching about controversial issues. All right,
Don't run away from that one yet.
okay.
So it's been my experience that this policy is very short, and it says preparation for effective citizenship, including study of issues that are controversial. Such studies carried out in an atmosphere free from bias, prejudice, and coercion. So I've learned that actually that doesn't take place in some classes. That if you are not in agreement with the teacher, then your grades will be lower than those that are in agreement. It's usually in political views. So,
Mr. Collins, I have to interrupt at this point, and I think that's really getting into the administrator's territory and is really offensive to some of our staff members. And I really want to let folks know that we have an exceptional staff across the board. And if anyone is being harassed, and that's what that would be, then they would need to deal with the administrator in that building. I don't think coming to a public forum and accusing staff of accepting.
so
I think that's
you can be
appropriate.
upset or disheartened if you wish, but the fact of the matter is I'm a representative of my district. And,
As am I.
and people in my district have expressed this to me. And I actually have seen it with my own child. So I don't know if this policy covers, I don't see anything in there as in reference to politics or particular political views. So.
Dr. Benson.
It does reference that, and with any policy, if there's behavior that is in contrast to our policy, then certainly reporting that either through third-party complaint or any procedure to school division for investigation, we're of course bound to do our due diligence in following up with that. It does in the final paragraph, or the last sentence of the first paragraph, that such study is carried out in an atmosphere free from bias, prejudice, or coercion. So certainly the allegation you've forwarded, Mr. Collins, would fall under that. It would be.
Well, it says that the school board does not endorse any political party or candidate, but that's not necessarily true of a staff member or two. So if I've heard the complaints, I'm bringing it forth in this policy because it doesn't, obviously it must not be clear enough for the administrators to be able to enforce it.
Well, I think that's where the bias, prejudice, or coercion, I think where that language right there, then if there were concern about a particular viewpoint or political viewpoint, that would cover that. That would establish grounds for someone to lodge a complaint to the school administration for investigation.
So I'd ask for that to be pulled aside for further review. It's in a discussion item.
Okay, so do you want how do you want that to be further reviewed? Do you want that on a following agenda item as another discussion, or what is your plan
Yes,
for that?
please.
Let's clarify, we're talking about policy IND. Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me. Policy INB, teaching about controversial issues. That is the policy under discussion.
Yes, ma'am. And please refrain from being accusatory towards me, please, about being negative towards the staff. I do take that's a negative reference. I'm not being negative to our grade staff at all. In your comment, that's what you said.
All right, so we will pull policy INB for further consideration at a future meeting. Next is policy JL, fundraising and solicitation. All right, next is policy JN, student fees, fines, and charges. So I have a question about this one, Dr. Benson. So looking at the student fees, it looks to me like all of the cafeteria fees for students are waived for next year.
Not necessarily all the cafeteria fees, but the USDA is extending the grant program that'll provide a school lunch and a school breakfast for each student at no cost to the student or the student's family. A la carte items, those types of things, or additional items would still be for fee.
So which is it? The school lunch and
Breakfast,
a breakfast.
correct.
And that includes preschool as well.
I believe so.
But a la carte items are still paid for.
Yes, and we've,
Totally.
I know Ms. Davis is working with Ms. Higgins to put some communication out here shortly on our website, and we'll be happy to have Ms. Davis come into a meeting perhaps and explain the program.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay.
So Dr. Benson, will since we're on this topic, will new grants be required for the continuation of the 21-22 year, or are we?
I believe it's called the Seamless Summer Feed Program that's being extended into the 21-22 school year. She could provide the details on the grant, but it's not my understanding is it's not necessarily a new grant, it's a continuation of what's being provided currently through the summer.
And that includes all students.
All students, a breakfast and a lunch.
Okay. So I think that's a good idea, Dr. Benson. Could we get an overview of that at I guess maybe the next meeting, since that would be the last meeting before school starts?
Sure.
That'd be good. Okay. All right. Next is policy KBC, media relations. Okay. Policy KC, community involvement in decision making. So I had a question about policy KC. So talking about advisory committees, I was wondering that if as a board, we've ever considered establishing advisory committees for each of the schools, such as the policy mentions. Has ever been?
Well, you have your standing committees as far as like gifted advisory, those special ed, the SEAC committee, those are advisory committees to you as a board.
Right. But so I guess I understood the policy to be like a committee specific to each school. The board may appoint a committee of not less than 3 nor more than 7 members of each public school in the school division. The committee's duty will be to advise the members of the school board with reference to matters pertaining to the school and to cooperate. I guess I read it as like specific to each school, like you'd have a committee for each of the elementary schools and middle school and high school. Maybe that wasn't the right interpretation. It was just a question.
Yeah, that would be the pleasure of the board if you had a purpose for that.
Okay.
I read it as the types of committees were essentially at the pleasure of the board. And that would be a type of committee,
Different one.
which would represent Potomac or Silston or the high school or the preschool for that matter. And I guess some of those areas are overlapping. For example, the preschool is involved, it would be involved with various other committee, both folks, for want of a better word.
It may be helpful. This fall, the next couple of months, we're going to begin engaging in a stakeholder groups, more of a community conversation as we prepare that next iteration of our comprehensive plan. So that may be maybe allowing that process to play forward and seeing how that works might help then shape the thinking of the board as far as whether you want to create standing committees of that sort, or if focus groups in this context serve the purpose that perhaps this policy is suggesting.
Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I read it as it's different from the committees we already have, especially since it said, it had to be between 3 and 7 people. I know a lot of our committees are more than 7, and I don't see that as a problem, just anyway. Okay, but I'll be interested to see how those
So are we
play out.
pulling KC for further discussion or not? No,
I don't think we,
Ms. Collins?
Up to y'all.
I don't feel that it needed further discussion. I was just curious as far as the committees are concerned, which it sounds like there's an opportunity to discuss that this fall anyway. So I'm good with leaving it where it is.
So just to clarify, did we pull J in student fees and fines, or we did not? Okay.
No. Okay, next is policy KKA, service animals in public schools. Okay, policy LB, relations with private schools. And policy LEA, student teachers. So the student, I guess, question, is the student teacher one just struck altogether? Is that what the story is with that one, Dr. Benson?
Yes.
Okay, is it being superseded by something else, or there's just no longer a policy about it?
I believe it's probably covered in another policy, but I can double check and make sure.
Okay. All right, any further discussion with any of the policies that we may have missed?
So shall we clarify about when these will come back for action? Will be August or July? August?
Or
Your next meeting, we bring all but I and B back for action.
at the 26th?
Yes, August 6th.
So the next meeting's July 26th,
I think.
and then the next meeting is the 9th, the first day of school, correct?
Right.
So all will come back but I and B in 2 weeks.
And I guess, may I, Madam Chair, just clarify that all of these policies can be found on the Cambridge County Schools website. Yes, the easiest way that I can do them is to go across the headings to school board, and you do a drop down, the policy manual is right there, the entire policy manual. And you can spend months
Reading them.
going through. I have in the past, both in my employment and here. And we update these policies that we use based on information from a variety of sources, including for the Virginia Association for School Boards, which is a source we get legal updates we get updates from the legislature. So all of this then comes back to us to make an update to the policy if we choose to or not. And then it goes into that policy until it's changed. Some of our policies have been around since 1960s or later.
They could be, but of course it's, the due diligence is part of, you're correct, Ms. Hawk, that the VSBA then takes all of any changes that are necessary as a result of General Assembly action. They also then keep the refresh clock, so to speak, and they will do their due diligence in making sure that every couple of years we've touched or at least reviewed every policy to make sure it's remaining current and relevant.
Okay. All right. Next, we have our information items. If we have any committee reports this evening, Ms. Hawk,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Collins,
Ma'am.
I do not have any either. So next, our superintendent's report, Dr. Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just one other. We've already discussed the DOE model policy. I had noted that to discuss. So I'll leave that with the comments I've already made. The second issue I'm receiving, as I'm sure board members are as well, much communication about masks and whether they'll be mandatory or optional. Kind of the Reader's Digest version. Not long ago, we know that executive order from the governor's number 79 expired, as did the state of emergency. On the heels of that, and many believed, and I think correctly, that at that point then masks were not officially being directed in any sense. But shortly thereafter, currently the State Commissioner of Health issued guidance requiring masks in indoor settings for K-12 schools, with the caveat that the issue would be revisited on the 25th of this month. And so that's really where we and all schools in Virginia reside right now, is that we are under a public health official's order until the 25th. We'll wait until then, and then we'll hope that on the 26th, that order is rescinded or amended to provide clarity as far as the beginning of school. So I just want to make sure I'm making that clear to everyone, that that's really what we are monitoring in terms of guidance for the school year, in terms of the use of masks being optional indoors. Already outdoors, they are not under order. So that's where we are in Virginia, not just King George County. We'll continue to monitor, and we'll eagerly await word on the 26th from the Public Health Commissioner as far as any future guidance, or directive, I should say.
All right, thank you, Dr. Benson. All right, well, we're moving right along here. 28 minutes. Our board comment, Ms. Hawk.
Well, we are moving along. This is perhaps a record for us.
This year.
Certainly this year, you're right. And I will try to keep them brief, but I have tried, as part of my personal policy, every meeting for the past 100 years, feels like that anyway, to make sure that I thank someone who supports the school, who doesn't normally receive any credit or awards or et cetera. And through the years, we as a board have tried very, especially this year, to be thankful to people, because it has been rough since, I don't know, 2 years ago, however, whatever. And I racked my feeble brain to identify someone that I had missed, or that we had not thanked. But the obvious choice for me right now in these times is the student. And I want to say thank you to the student who succeeded despite the lack of internet access, the ones who received support but didn't know how to use it or needed more from home or staff, administrator, or strangers ranting about them. The students who are not succeeding, I am thankful for, but believing that they will be back and hopefully believing that they can do it now. And I know that our staff, from the custodian level, from people like Mr. Golden, all the way to our Dr. Benson, will be there to support each student, from the 3-year-olds in our preschools to the 18 and 19-year-olds, and some beyond that in our special programs. The students we lost, I want us to remember that we need to be thankful for them, because some of them are somehow finding a path. And I see them and they contact me, and I also need to know and need to say that I know, and I know that our staff will be there for them, whether they have finished school, whether they've graduated, or whether they're coming back to see a trusted person like Ms. Strauss out there, or to look to get back in, or to get a GED, or to get into a program at Rappahannock or Germanna. And I want to say thank you to the students who are working while waiting out this bad time. So many of you students out there, tell me about your jobs, whatever they are, how small or how very important they can be sometimes. When I ask at the grocery store when I see them clerking, or at CVS, or in so many ways, both in our county and Fredericksburg area. I say, how's it going? What's happening? And they tell me about their jobs, but they always tell me about their next plans. And if it doesn't involve school, then I want them to meet somebody in some direction, somewhere, whether it's at Germanna or a career specialist or our wonderful maintenance department and our transportation department. We're a school board that needs our community, and we need for the kids to be able to come back in for jobs and to be sufficiently trained and educated to go out for jobs. That's what we're about. And to make it safe and healthy along the way. So, so many more young people are going to be coming along. We've got a preschool starting up again, and a Head Start starting up. Our little bitties are starting. And I really am asking for folks out there to concentrate on making sure that kids around you succeed. Not just your kids, not just the kids in your family, but the kids in your community. People like Christine Buck and the folks at the Educational Foundation are there to support the kids, to get them ready to go and prepared for whatever, literally whatever they need, if it's a pair of socks or a pair of underwear. It isn't about politics. It's not about opening full or closing or doing homeschool or being right or wrong. It's all about the kid. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hawk. Mr. Collins?
Thank everyone for coming. Thank everyone for being online, those that are. As we come to another school year, getting ready to start, I see no reason why we shouldn't start another school year. I mean, it's been, if you are unfortunate to watch the news, even Dr. Fauci says that all schools need to be back in. Everybody says all schools need to be back in. And the Virginia, Executive Order 79 expired, and it talked about mask and executive order. And then there was the Department of Health came out with but it still makes it optional for school boards, from my interpretation of reading that, that advisory opinion. It's not a law. I would hopefully that we will have a mask option when we start school.
Anything else, Mr. Collins?
I'm reviewing my notes.
Okay.
No, I think that'll be it.
What?
I think that'll be it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I have a few comments. So first of all, Dr. Benson, I think I just wanted to revisit the conversation about the Friends of the Rappahannock and find out if anyone had yet reached out to Brent Hunsinger about the potential for the EPA grants for educational programming. I know he's itching to get a plan together and get rolling with stuff for our students. So I'm interested in an update on that. And then I know it's been mentioned a couple times, but I'd like to see our student representatives rejoin the board in the fall. So I guess I'm just wondering what needs to happen in order for that to take place. I know Ms. Daughtridge has been a proponent of that. I know she's retiring, so I'm just interested in what the next step is. We can follow up on that. And then in part, I think in response to, I know some emails that we've gotten and a number of folks that are here this evening, I know that many parents are anxious for an affirmative on the mask requirements for the schools in the fall. I recognize that not all community members agree with adherence to public health guidance. However, while some parents would prefer that their children not wear masks, there are other families that rely upon this health mitigation strategy with regards to sending their children to school, as that is what has been communicated as the part of our COVID-19 health mitigation plan. I believe it's incumbent upon the board to make decisions that are in the best interest of all. And in my opinion, this means adhering to public health guidance. It's been pointed out that King George is a small community, which it certainly is. And while it is also true that our case numbers are very low, I think what that does mean is that it indicates that as a community, we've done a very good job of keeping everyone healthy and safe. So I will continue to be supportive of health guidance pertaining to mask wearing as is issued by the state and associated health and education departments. And to some of the points that Dr. Metzen made about additional guidance coming out after July 25th regarding the 2021 beginning school year, I look forward to that guidance and seeing the evolution that follows. So that concludes my comments. Any final remarks? Or do we have a motion to go into closed session?
Pursuant to State Code Section 2.2-3711.A.1, for the purpose of discussion, consideration of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, substitutes, stipends, and resignations of employees of the school board, and for discussion of specific employees of the school board, specifically the evaluation of the division superintendent, I move that we enter closed meeting.
Just for your knowledge, I was asking the superintendent about adding something to this in regards to a legal issue, but he says he has a meeting next week. So I second this motion that's presented.
All right. All in
I
favor?
don't know what's going on. Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We're now in closed session.
I move that the King George County School Board return to open session and certify that pursuant to State Code 2.2-3712.d, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in a meeting by the public body.
Second, certify.
Certify. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're now in open session. We have a motion to approve the action resulting from closed meeting.
Make a motion to approve the personnel as presented.
Gail, do you second?
Oh, second, I'm sorry.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're now adjourned until July 26th.